We're here. We're here at the march. Well, at the end of it anyway. It was such an awesome experience.
Awesome, rich time together with the community. I'm going to give you a quick view of what it looks like as it's wrapping up right now.
God bless you.
You're live on the church service.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those who want to march again, we're going to do one more round. So we're going to stay linking back because the community was waking up while we were marching. We're going to do one. So those who are interested, who's not leaving, we're going to stay. We're going to do another one. So if you can join us.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So I'm just grabbing you guys for a second. You're here live with me. I'm talking to the Toronto West Church right now. We're live. The service is going on online for us. So this is live streamed to the entire congregation and the world. Can you introduce yourself?
People. My name is Special Constable Finn with Toronto Police. Michael Brony with Toronto Police. How everyone doing?
What do you have to say about your experience for today?
It's a beautiful experience. The only way we're going to beat racism is to unite and join.
I think that to see change, we have to work together, and it's a great start.
It's been an awesome day. We're glad that our officers have been here the entire day interacting with us, but also here to take a stand against racism and social justice. We're so grateful that they stand with this great faith community, and we can be very proud of our 23 division.
Yep, we're here to stand with you.
Keep praying for them. And pray for our community here at Toronto West, 1621 Albion Road, as God is doing amazing things to our men and women who serve, but also to our faith communities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
So you're live on the Toronto West Church service. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Yolanda, aka Auntie Yo-Yo, and I'm just glad to have this opportunity to be here today.
What church are you repping?
Oh, repping Kenisa Fellowship.
As you can see, churches from all over the GTA are here. We thank God for Kenisa, and your pastor, Pastor Patrick Jock, must be proud that you're representing today.
Right, and there's a group of us that are here, so it's great. It's great for us to be able to come together and stand together in unity. Hoping to do this again very soon.
God bless you, Yolanda.
God
bless you. I'm here on the scene live with the Toronto West worship service going on right now. Team West, introduce yourselves.
I'm Leah, and I'm a part of the community.
And I'm Trisha. You guys all know me, Kata McKenzie. T West represent. Love you guys. It's a beautiful, happy Sabbath day. Thank you very much, Pastor.
So good to have you. You probably can't hear us because the microphone and people are on the microphone giving greetings. But we want to let you know, church, if you weren't able to make it, that it was such an awesome experience. We have many people from the community. Our deacons worked hard.
Yes, we did. It was great to be here. I think this was very interesting. Multicultural individuals were out here. A lot of pastors from different churches were here. And I think it was well done. Thank you, Pastor, for being part of this with us. And on that, well.
Awesome. And we have here one of our elders.
Hi, everyone.
You're on Zoom Live with the church, the Toronto West Seventh-day Adventist Church. Introduce yourself. They may not know who you are because you're masked.
Oh, I'm Robert Smith, one of the elders of the church here. This is an awesome experience, and I hope that it will effect more change.
That's right. We also have Brother Linton with us. He was a part of the parking lot and security here and the deaconry. Church Live. Nice. Say hi to the church family.
Hello, everybody. Hi, everybody. Nice seeing you.
I want you to also meet someone here from the Salvation Army. He was very instrumental and also our officers who we met several weeks ago. They're here on site, and I want you to please meet Officer Woods and Officer Zettler. You've met them before, but since we're live today in service, I want you to see them again. They've done such a phenomenal job with the entire 23 Division, and we want them to bring you greetings.
Hi, everyone.
Greetings, everybody.
We wish you were here.
We're here, and we just walked around the block for a unity march.
What was your experience like, and what can you tell us about this going forward?
It was nothing but supportive. Both the Black community and the officers that were involved, walked together in unity, supported each other. And like I said in my little speech there, this isn't the only one. We are going to continue this as an annual event.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to the next one. Our hearts are just filled today, and this was great. And we can't wait for the next one.
Awesome vision by our 23 Division, and we will continue this ongoing relationship to make sure that there's unity in our community. And we thank God for their tireless effort and their service to see that this event came to pass. Continue to pray for these men and women as they serve our community, and remember them. Remember them every day that you wake up and the service that they are doing, that God will continue to use them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We also have with us our a pastor here from the Salvation Army. Can you introduce yourself to our church?
Hello, it's David Bowles from the Salvation Army on Kipling here in Etobicoke. Yeah. Where are we going here? We're going live somewhere.
We're live with our church service today.
Oh, great, yeah. Oh, bless all you Seventh-day Adventist folks. Yeah, God bless you. And thank you for allowing us to use your facility here, the parking lot, and all your equipment, etc. This has been a great thing together, collaboration, and we just hope that it will continue on, and we'll see some really solid healing here. No more talk. Let's get this thing done. Yep.
Well said. As you can see, he's not just sitting down. In fact, he was delivering and serving water to everybody who was walking and on the walk today. He's been working hard. Remember him and the Salvation Army and the work that they're doing in our community. Prayers lifted for them. We thank you for your service today and your effort in the community. We're praying for you.
Thank you very much. God bless you too.
Folks, as you can see, if you weren't down here, then you missed the blessing. But don't worry, God's blessing will continue to fall. It's awesome just to be here, and thank you for your support, and thank you for our stream team who made this event go live in this way. Our pastors have been here, and we want to let you know, may God continue to bless you. Have a wonderful, happy Sabbath. I have Sister Judy Chachu here with me. Hi. She was handing out all these shirts. As you can see, if you want one of these shirts, you just simply have to send us an email and let us know, and we'll see if we can get one to you. But we stand in solidarity today, as Jesus did, on our mark for social justice in our community and unity. Faith organizations all united right here at Toronto West, our beloved church. But we are the church, and it's not called for us to sit in a building and worship, but bring our worship on the streets, and we did just that today. And we want to thank everyone who came out today and let you know that we had an awesome time. God bless you guys. Take care.
You're tuned into WestLINK.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you all to another episode of WestLINK. Thank you so much for being with us. And we want to let you know that you can like, share, and subscribe to our Toronto West YouTube channel. Again, this is WestLINK, where we connect, discuss real topics with real people. And again, thank you so much for joining us. So, I am your host, Greg Birkett. Some of you know me. Some of you have seen me host this program before. And for those of you that don't know me and who are new to the program, I am an educator, an author, spoken word artist, and a husband, a father. I have to say husband. I could be in trouble. Husband, father, and just, your boy, all around friend to one and all. And today we are going to be discussing a very interesting and pivotal topic to our society right now. We are at May 22nd, and May 25th will be the 1 year commemoration of the George Floyd murder. George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis by former police officer Derek Chauvin. The murder was or had worldwide repercussions as people of all ages and backgrounds witnessed the callous and senseless killing of a father, a brother, an uncle, a friend, most importantly, a human. The whole incident was first brought to me, actually, or brought to my attention by my father. My dad and I were having a conversation. I was talking to him, and he asked me if I had seen what had happened in Minneapolis, and he described the events of what happened with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. And I hadn't seen the video at that time. I, as I mentioned before, I'm an educator, teacher, guidance counselor. And at the time, I was really sort of trying to get used to the whole virtual education situation that we found ourselves in, and trying to figure out how to do my job effectively virtually. And I was just exceedingly busy and didn't get a chance to actually watch the video and see what had happened with George Floyd. So continued on, just doing my work and trying to figure out what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I get a call from our senior pastor, Pastor Fred Nichols. And this call, I'll never forget the call. It came probably around 2, maybe 2:30 in the afternoon. And it was a Thursday afternoon. And I had just come out of a meeting with the head of my department, the guidance department. I was meeting with him and other guidance counselors, and he's stressing just how much work there is to do and how much we have to get done. And I finished that virtual meeting with him, and I get a call from our senior pastor, Pastor Fred Nichols. And, we know each other from way back. So our calls, our conversations can be about anything from Fred getting a patty at Randy's and him enjoying this patty that he hasn't tasted in years, to something about the church, church business. So, I didn't know what to expect with regards to the call, but I could tell that it was something serious based on the way that his voice sounded. And he said to me, he started off with, Greggy, I'm going to get right to it. And basically what he was asking me was to write an official statement on behalf of our church with regard to the murder of George Floyd. And, I tried to tell him that I'm exceedingly busy. I don't think I'll have the time to write this particular statement for the church, but Pastor Fred would not take no for an answer. And he said that he thought that he believed that my voice would be pivotal or would be very, I guess it would be suited for this particular situation, given my stance with regards to social justice and things of that nature. So he really wanted me to write this statement. Now, I'm, again, my only understanding of the situation was based on what my father had said to me about it. And then Pastor Fred now calling me, asking me. I hadn't seen the video at the time, and Pastor Fred didn't know that I hadn't seen the video of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd at the time. So I'm keeping in mind, our church's position. First and foremost, our church is, and this is not bragging about our church, this is just a fact, our church is actually the first Black Seventh-day Adventist church in all of Canada. It was founded by West Indian immigrants, and is the first Black church. And in many ways, it was founded out of social justice activity. So I'm thinking, you know, any statement that our church makes on behalf of or with regards to a social justice issue has to be powerful. It's a big congregation, over 1,000 people. We're in Rexdale. And again, as I mentioned, we're the first Black Seventh-day Adventist church. So, you know, this statement, whatever it is that I'm going to make or that I'm going to write for the church, needs to be something powerful. But I hadn't seen the video yet. So as I said, the pastor would not take no for an answer. So I ended up telling him, yes, I'll do it. And I said, you know, when do you need it? He said, by tomorrow. I said, okay, so I guess I need to watch this video. So I came off the phone with him, and I found the video online. And my first reaction to the video, you know, I lifted my hand in the air and actually slammed it down on the desk that I was working at, just in sheer disgust, hurt, anger. You know, I was just, and I couldn't work for the rest of the day. And as I mentioned, I had all this work to do, but I could not work after watching that video. It was so hurtful and so disturbing. So, you know, one of the reasons why it really impacted and hit home with me is George Floyd and I are pretty much the same age. And this incident really made, it became personal to me because I thought about all the experiences that I've had with law enforcement. And also, you know, it made me think of the nervous feeling that myself and many other Black people have whenever a police car is behind us while we're driving or beside us while we're driving, even if we haven't done anything wrong. Just the mere fact that our skin often is condemnation or puts us in a position to be seen as suspect. All of those things combined really made me it just really triggered me when I saw this video. So waiting nearly 1 year for the trial and a verdict has been challenging for my patience and my faith. But the verdict was delivered, and we're gonna have a candid and deep discussion about the impact of that verdict and what it means for us going forward. So I'm gonna start inviting our panelists to join me. Today, we are going to be joined by an educator, a lawyer, a social worker, and a pastor. We had initially wanted to have a police officer join us as well, but given the climate of everything that's happening, we had two police officers that we had approached, and actually even more. But there were two of them that explicitly said that they would not be able to join us because of the climate of everything that's, you know, everything that's going on, and the challenges between the police and the Black population. And they were actually instructed that it would probably be better if they did not join us. So that in itself speaks volumes to what's going on here in our society. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Sheldon James to the program. Sheldon is a lawyer in the city of Toronto. He has experience in criminal, family, and education law. He is a strong advocate for civil and human rights and access to justice. Sheldon James, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
All right. I look forward to our conversation. And next up, I would like to welcome Claudette Howell Rutherford to the show. Claudette is an educator. Oh, yeah. Hi. She's an educator, and she was recently elected president of the Markham African Caribbean Canadian Association, and has worked with the MACCA for over 15 years. She's an educator of over 18 years and a devout community organizer and co-founder of Parents of Black Children. Claudette serves on the OACAS, and that is Education Outcomes Committee, and is an op-ed contributor for the Center for Integrative Anti-Racist Studies at OAZ. Claudette does too much, man. This is just... That's good. No, I got to tell them the rest, man, because this is important. She serves on the City of Markham Race Relations Committee and is a roster board member of the Ontario College of Teachers. Claudette is just making all of us feel very inadequate here because she does so much and is just an amazing educator, an amazing person, and we go way back. And I'm really happy to have her join us today. And then last but not least, I have Nathaniel Frey Smith. And give me a second as I pull up Nathaniel's bio here. Nathaniel is a social worker and entrepreneur. He also has many years of experience working in the entertainment industry. He is the co-creator of Sunday Social, a live music and networking event for Black professionals. He wants his legacy to be that he created opportunities for his community to progress, that he is committed to, or that he was committed to finding joy, creating peace, and most importantly, embodying love. Nathaniel Frey Smith,
yes,
welcome, sir. All right. And this is amazing. This panel is awesome because I have a personal connection to all of them. And I think that this discussion is just going to be exceedingly rich. And we have also joining us, and many of you know him. He's no stranger to us. His name is Pastor Dexter Smith. All right. And I'm actually going to let Pastor Smith introduce himself. When you get to a certain level, you don't have people introducing you. You introduce yourself. And that's the level that Pastor Smith is at. So Pastor Smith, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Man, we're just pastor of the Hope Seventh-day Adventist Church, former associate pastor of Toronto West, the illustrious, legendary Toronto West Seventh-day Adventist Church, also Mississauga, Kingsview, Toronto North, Oakville, churches in Alberta, West Edmonton, and Northwest Edmonton. So we've been in pastoral ministry for over a decade. God has been good. And we're married to one wife, just one, with two beautiful children. We are honored to be in the space and share the space with such awesome people who are shakers and movers of society and also of the church.
All right. So I didn't ask him to show off. I just asked him to introduce himself, but he had to tell us about all these churches he's pastored, not only here, but in other parts of the country. And that is what Pastor Smith does. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And I want to jump into things here. And I want to set this first question up by starting off with talking about the fact that in the 1990s, there was, and this is, quite some time ago, Rodney King, the case with Rodney King, or the Rodney King incident. I remember it vividly because I was in high school and it had a huge impact on society at that particular time. It was sort of a watershed moment, a very different circumstance, because this was the first time that a violent interaction between a police officer and a Black person was actually captured on video, right? So we in the Black community or the Black population knew that this kind of thing was happening for many, many years. For some outside of our community, it might have been a surprise, but for us, it was just another one being added in. But this is the first time that it was actually recorded. And, I want to say not just in the United States, I want to say in North America, because there were all kinds of violent interactions between the police happening here in Toronto during that time period as well, from the 80s to the 90s. And Nathaniel might not know this as well, because he is the youngest member of the panel, and he was just getting over diaper rash and learning to walk and talk at the same time. But for the rest of us, we will probably remember Dudley Laws and Charles Roach and those guys who were actually fighting out again or fighting back and trying to hold the police accountable for some of the murders that had happened to, for instance, like Albert Johnson and some of these other Black men here in the GTA. And you had, of course, people like Cecil Foster and a guy that some of us are familiar with, a guy named Royston James. Sheldon James has had such a very close relationship with this man that he's decided to start calling him dad. So, and these guys were writing out about these issues that were happening. And then Dudley Laws and all these guys are holding the police accountable, and they're responsible. And a lot of people don't know this, for the SIU, the Special Investigations Unit, being formed because they were tired of the police investigating themselves and coming to conclusions that were not that we didn't see as just. So we have this Rodney King video, and many of us believed that those officers would be convicted, and they were not. But this one now, we fast forward to 2021. What was different about this particular case that led to this verdict? As I said, Rodney King, we saw it on film, or we saw it on video rather. Philando Castile saw that on video as well. What was different about this particular case that led to this verdict? We've seen it go differently so many times in the past. What was different about this officer being convicted this time? I don't know about you guys, but I know for myself and many others, we were holding our breath because we really didn't know. We didn't think. Some of us were afraid to think that we might actually see justice. So I'm going to go to you first, Sheldon. What do you think was different this time with this particular case?
There's many things that I think were different this time around. Some of it is cumulative, as you've said, the years and years of not getting justice or seeing this play out in the media. So it might be hard to pin down one specific thing, but I think one of the most important things that happened differently this time around during the Chauvin trial was how the prosecutors in particular laid out what I call a playbook for how to approach these type of cases in the future. I think they tried very hard to humanize George Floyd. And so at that point in time, it didn't become necessarily a race thing. It became something that everyone could identify, no matter your color or creed. I think probably is another thing. I won't go into too many of them and leave some for the rest of the panel. But I think that another difference in this trial was that the police officers came out and called out the misconduct and sort of broke what people would call the blue wall of silence,
right?
That sometimes exists in other cases in the past and present.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, the blue wall, right? And you had officers in high-ranking positions actually coming in and giving their opinion. Nathaniel, what are your thoughts, man? You are a young Black male, and you come from a family of activists, and you've had we've had so many discussions about this, you and I, and you have talked about encounters that you've seen and have witnessed and have been a part of with regards to law enforcement, and seeing this now as a young Black man under 40. What are your thoughts? Why do you think this was different?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things. I think COVID had a bit to play into it as well. There were less excuses for people that have seen it. Everybody's kind of at home. Everybody's paying attention to this. This is something that's really viral. Like, I won't lie to you, 2017, I stopped watching the videos. I broke down once and I was like just bawling my eyes out, because the reality is, just like you, Greg, I saw myself. I see myself in these things all the time, and it's just like, I got to protect my mental health. So I can't just keep seeing these public lynchings and pretend like it's nothing. Like, it's not like watching a movie. It's very different, So for me, I think because a lot of things were shut down, we were just going through the pandemic. This was a time where it's like, this was really viral. This was all the white people at work actually saw this one. Like, this was, you know what I mean? There was no hiding from it. So I think, in addition to what Sheldon was saying, there was like a real public connection to this, and a real like, oh, I know you guys have mentioned this stuff happening, but I never thought it could be as bad as this. Plus, on the flip side, there is a little bit of a separation with this than, dare I say, a regular police shooting, right? Where it's like, there was no, oh, I thought he had a weapon, I pulled first for my own safety, right? Where that is an understandable thing, though it seems like we don't accept it a lot. With this one, it was like, this was like almost 10 minutes. This was like, you had more than enough time to see his lifeless body. You had more than enough time to see even all the cameras on you. And it was just kind of like, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about you guys actually seeing this. It's easier for me to tell you you're crazy and you didn't see this than for me to just get off his neck. So I think, along with what Sheldon said, those kind of things added to it a bit as well, because it's not just about the system. It is about the system, but it's also the jurors in this situation that had a hand in it as well, right? So it brings like a bit of a human aspect to it, and it's kind of like the pressure is also on them to ensure that something actually happens. So yeah.
Yes. You said a lot in there, Nathaniel. And before I go to Claudette and to the pastor for their opinion, I want us to actually take a look at a video clip here, just to have a look at it again and to see how things transpired. And then when we come back, I'm going to go to Claudette and Pastor Smith to get their opinion on it.
Okay.
Please. I can't breathe over there. Kill me. They gonna kill me, man.
He's not even resisting arrest right now, bro.
His nose is bleeding.
You fucking stopping his breathing right now, bro. You think that's cool?
What we saw was horrible. Completely and utterly messed up. When you hear someone calling for help, you are supposed to help. This officer failed in the most basic human sense. It was traumatic, and it serves as a clear reminder of just how far we have to go.
Every time we see it, or every time I see it, I know it still evokes emotion. And I want to invite my panelists back so we can discuss again, just everything with regards to this. And I want to focus in now and ask Claudette, what does this guilty verdict mean to the Black community? You're very much a community activist, and you're in there with the community on a daily basis. What do you feel like this means for Black people?
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, sorry, still reeling from the video. I think the verdict serves as a reminder, really, that justice is possible. So that's the first thing. So we know what should be happening. We know that we should be protected by the law. We know that we should be protected by police, and that justice should play out in this way. And over again, we've been denied that. We've been told that that's not possible. So I think that the verdict says, there is a system that should work, and it did in the case. And so to me, it leads us to hold that system far more accountable again, because it's to say that, well, we know that there is a system that should work and can work, and why doesn't it most often? So I think that that's kind of what it conjured up for me. I was afraid to watch the verdict as well. I was sort of in the midst of a meeting that everyone was trying to cancel. All the Black people that were going to the meeting were trying to, should we still do this? Because of what we knew, the weight of what this would carry for our community. Yes. And I sat there thinking, I don't know that I could sit here on a meeting on a Zoom, right, and contain myself and maintain my composure in the midst of what that meant globally. And to your point around, what made this different. Because I too was a high school student when with Rodney King. I think what was different was, as we saw in that clip that you showed, there were white people that were utterly disgusted. The word he used was utterly disgusted.
Good
right?
point.
So I think that it's different when there are people that are not Black, that are in positions of power, that feel or say they feel or have the same, it has the same impact on, or maybe not the same, but it has impacted them in a way, and that becomes, televised. And I think that outrage was global, right? Because now with these viral videos, Nate mentioned that as well, it was international. I mean, every country, major capital city across the world, people were showing that same outrage. So the pressure, I think, on the system was different than it was, although there was a video with Rodney King, people across nations were feeling what we were feeling, and we saw the demonstrations literally right across the world. So I think that's what made it different. And speaking from as a mother, I would say that my dad did share that video with me. That was the first time I saw it. And when I heard George Floyd call out for his mother, I will tell you, I have not had a moment like that. Hope to never have one, again. And I think that visceral cry for help that we didn't hear from Rodney King, right? We didn't hear that. And so I think those are some of we talked about so many, but I think that those are some of the pieces that I think led to, potentially, I don't know, that led to this guilty verdict.
Wow, Claudette, you said some things there. And there was one thing that you said that really resonated with me, was just you not being able to hold it together in a meeting, or not wanting to be a part of a meeting while this is going on. And the same similar thing to me, as I mentioned, with me rather, as I mentioned, after I saw the video the first time, I couldn't work for the rest of the day. And I'm thinking about my colleagues who I just had this meeting with, who were saying, there's a lot of work to get done, we got to get to it. But for me as a Black man, after seeing that, I can't work. Right? I can't
call in that day of the video being released. I did call in. I actually said to it was virtual, but I did call in to my supervisor at the time, and I said, I am grieving. I'm grieving Black lives today, and my children did not go to school that day. Like we took a pause as a family.
Yeah. See, and that's, I often wonder, when we say things like that to them, like, I can't work, I'm grieving. How do they take that? Do they see that as authentic? What do you mean you're grieving? He's not related to you. He's not, it's not your brother or your father. What do you mean you can't come to work? So I'm gonna go to Pastor Smith now. Just like Claudette, you work very much in the community. You're a pastor. You're meeting with our community on a daily basis. What does this mean? What does the guilty verdict mean to the community, to the Black community? What are your thoughts?
Man, I'm still traumatized by the video you just showed. I gotta just confess, admit. It's a difficult thing for us to see this happen. But I think for us, what it means for us as a community is that we have to continue to hold people accountable and systems accountable. I remember at Toronto West, we hosted for the region, right there at Toronto West, a march, a protest march. Some of what we've never seen in our history before is seeing police officers be a part of the march with us.
Yes.
The global effects of George Floyd were felt. For us to engage the police services in our district was amazing, but to at least have the conversation. I think before there were conversations, but to at least hear from the police, from their mouths, this is disgusting. We have never seen this. We are not trained to do what we saw. This is crazy. They dropped some comments about police officers like him To hear them confess that there are problems within the system with people who are radicals like that was finally a testament that we needed to hear. I think what this means for a church and for our church and for the community, it means that we now have more of a space for learning and listening. And I think before this was pushed off, I think during a pandemic, this created space for us to listen. Finally listen. I mean, the pandemic created pauses for us to have at least a rallying together. I mean, it's still a challenge though, because virtual rallies aren't the same as in person. Virtual rallies aren't the same. I saw a comment made a few seconds ago that said, somebody said, I will not get rest until we hear the actual indictment to the officer. The reality is that we're still lamenting. And to really grieve requires that we need to be in person. We can't really overcome this until the pandemic really is over, because we need space to be together to be able to grieve.
Yes.
And I think we never had that opportunity. And what this means is that we have to listen, we have to learn, and we need the space to properly lament. And I think this is what we're learning.
Wow, I think that's an amazing point, Pastor. I never really thought about the fact that we haven't been able to come together and grieve together, right? Nathaniel, I want to kind of just deviate for a second. And Nathaniel, I can see that the video, it had quite an impact on you. It's emotional for you. I want to talk a little bit about the fact, I want to talk about being black and being a male, and the intersectionality of the two, and what that means. When you see something like that happen, when you see the George Floyd video, as a black male, how does that resonate with you differently? Nathaniel, what are your thoughts on that? The intersectionality of blackness and maleness, and then as it connects to what we saw.
So there's so many things to unpack there. As a black male, I'm taught so many things about my resilience, about what I'm supposed to be able to endure. And then on the flip side, about the dangers that are out there, just because of how I present, just because of, anybody's first glance at me, a black male, bearded. So many things flash before my eyes. The conversation with my parents about how to code switch.
Yes.
And how to be, hi officer, how's everything? Is there anything I can help you with? How to stay alive. And then on the man side of things, it's like, I'm supposed to be able to protect my people, my family, my friends.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And he wasn't a small guy by any means. So the helplessness. The crying out for his moms.
Yes. And Nathaniel, you said something there, the protector, right? Watching that, it made me feel like my role as protector is totally compromised, right? When you're walking down the street with your father as a kid, that's one of the safest moments you have in your life. You're walking beside your dad, you feel safe. Watching this with my kids, made me feel as though can they believe me? Can they trust me that when they walk down the street with me, everything is good? When this, as you said, he's about 6'5", black man could have this happen to him, and this sort of emasculation. I I want to ask you, Claudette, because we know that this is not exclusive to Black men. So the intersectionality, we can talk about Breonna Taylor, but we could also talk about your role as a wife to a Black man, as a mother to a Black son. What are your thoughts with regards to intersectionality? Black female, Black male. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Nate, for first for just showing that vulnerability, and we're holding you up. I just want to say that. Yeah, I mentioned that piece about the when he called for his mother. It just hit such a. I couldn't hear anything else. But I will say, I have 3 children. My teenage son, and yes, and looking into my husband's eyes, and I can't explain like what our house was like at that day. Held each other close. I said, I just want to be with everybody today. But on a larger scale, what I think this does, and so because I study racialization, the whole, all of what racialization is as a framework is meant to shake your psyche. Right. We talk about public lynchings. I mean, that is what this is. The sharing of that cross nationally as well, it will have an impact on the psyche. And that's sort of the oppression really is coming from the, attack, the psychological, right? And I believe that is what happened in that moment for all of us. But to be able to try to protect my Black son, and also like as a woman, maybe do I need to step in and also like and protect my husband? Like where do I fit in? And I definitely saw, just as Nate is showing us his emotion here, my husband did the same thing, my father, and it does something to you. Because I am traditional. I do look to, the man as a protector, my father as a protector, my husband as well. And so what that did to me also, as a woman, this is something, like I said, that, transatlantic slave trade, those are all, this was all meant to be. That was the sort of the purposeful function of having these things happen. And so definitely it did shake me. I think we do need to stand beside our Black brothers and make sure that they know that they are still at the head and the helm, and that we do trust them to protect us. And that we will, that's my message anyway. And moving forward, even as a community, that was what we wanted to instill, is that the Black man is still at the head and the helm. The reason they came for us on the continent of Africa is because they saw our strength, right? Our superiority and our prowess. And so that is what is threatening. And that is why Chauvin, kneeled on his neck. Besides shooting him, there would be no other way that he would have been able to overpower him. Right. These are things that, I sort of move forward and share with not just my family, but the youth, the young men across, my reach.
I can't tell you what it means to hear you say, Black men, we still trust you to protect us.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
I don't even know what to say. Nate, it looked like you had something that you wanted to add. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be quick. The parallels for me too, when you talk about the slave trade, when you talk about Greg, even in some of the plays that we've done, and just, understanding that as a protector, that almost shame and hopelessness that can overwhelm you. Or it's kind of like, I don't know who's watching, but it's kind of like when you tell your children that, Santa Claus isn't real anymore, or the Tooth Fairy, stuff like that, when it's like, their whole time they had this belief, some form of it at least, that was real, and then it starts to break down. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, he's not real. None of these guys are real. What is what is real anymore, right? And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to the strength, the inner strength that we know we have, but it's challenged well, on a daily. But then when we see something like this, it's like ultimately, do I have any power or real agency? Am I able to protect my family? Am I able to look out for the people I love? And then it, like she said, it kind of messes with your psyche, because you have to kind of go back to that self-talk and go back to that rebuilding. And hopefully, you know, whoever your significant other is, or whoever your children are, can have a hand in reminding you who you are and whose you are and who you represent, right? So yeah.
Wow. Listen, I wanna ask Sheldon something specifically here, and then I'm gonna move into our next segment, and I'm coming to you right after that, Pastor Smith. So Sheldon, does it even matter that there were that two of the other accused officers were of different races? How does that play in or factor in to all of this?
It might matter to some people out there. I don't think it necessarily matters to the grander discussion when we're talking about policing and the relationship between that and the Black community. I believe you've heard the saying that, you know, once you join the force, you're not Black or white, you're blue, right? And so that's, you know, that's the sentiment, or that's at least the perception out there, which is why I alluded to that earlier, that, you know, one of the biggest differences in this go around with Floyd was that you saw the blue wall crumbling a little bit, right? And once you saw that, you're like, oh, okay, so there's not buying into this collective thought that no matter what an officer does, we will stand by it or turn a blind eye or create a narrative that, you know, there's a big Black angry man. In this regard, you saw it. The officer, I think there was a trainee who was, I think, his second day on the force, and he sort of said something, right? It's sort of ironic that it was the most junior officer. I guess he hadn't been quite indoctrinated, and he made the statement that, hey, could you ease up off of him a bit? And then the Chauvin, who was the training officer, responded to the effect of, yeah, don't worry, the ambulance is coming. Right?
So he so could put him on his side.
Right, that's what it was. So you could put him on his side, and he goes, okay, no. And then he pushed back and said, well, I'm worried about the excited delirium. And he said, yeah, no, he's okay. That's why the ambulance is coming. And so it was interesting, you know, when you unpack all the many layers of this story, maybe that's a sign of hope in the sense that that's a junior officer coming in with a new set of ideas. And almost, you know, he didn't do enough, obviously. You know, he could have done more, and it would have saved the man's life. But it sort of left the crack of if I'm looking at it, the glass half full sort of thing. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. And then the other officers who were of mixed race or various ethnic groups were just sort of like, you know, you saw in the video, turning a blind eye, literally. Right? And so the race thing in terms of the officer doesn't necessarily matter to me. I think in Minnesota, actually, one of the most recent officers who was convicted of killing someone was actually a Black officer. Right? And,
I believe.
Or a person of color, correct. Right. And so I don't think, to answer your question directly, I don't think that it necessarily matters if you cannot attack the systemic or institutional problems that may exist, and that certainly do exist in some of these police forces.
Wow. Thank you. So I saw a comment there from someone asking about what accountability looks like moving forward, and we're going to get to that. I don't want to go there just yet, but we are going to address that, what accountability could look like or should look like going forward. But I wanted to move, and I want to address this to Pastor Smith. So we saw Chauvin's family praying before the verdict was delivered. We saw them giving prayers of thanksgiving after the verdict was delivered. We saw Reverend Al Sharpton very much in the mix of things. What does this mean with regards to the Christian community, the faith-based community? What do you think this verdict and all of this means to the Christian community?
Well, first of all, I think the duty of man, you know, in the book of Micah 6 says, you know, to do justice. I think the Christian community still stands behind the idea that doing justice is being morally accountable to what we do.
Okay.
It doesn't stop one from praying. I think, even in the death of Lazarus, there was to the glory of God.
Okay.
Oftentimes we're praying that God would fix something, and God always comes through and he fixes something. I mean, and Lazarus did die.
Yes.
So the prayers of the family is for his healing, right? And for his freedom, right? And maybe our articulations aren't always what we think they should be. I want to say maybe their articulations was that God would free his soul and free his spirit, with the voice of the Holy Spirit then transferring that prayer. And I think what we need most is that God would liberate this world from, inequality when it comes to justice, and that we would understand that it's still important that we do seek prayer, that we do find community in Christ, and that if God is for one and God is for all, that his glory is ultimately what is displayed.
Wow.
And it could mean his incarceration, and it could mean our accountability to what we do. And for him, I'm happy that there is accountability, because this is the justice that the Bible preaches, and this is the justice that Christianity seeks for.
And I like that you always keep bringing it back to community and us coming together with regards to this, Pastor. And that's an interesting lens to look at this through, right? That we don't need to be in our own silos, sort of grieving and dealing with this, but it really calls for us to come together. I want us to we're actually going to take a look at the video now with regards to the family's reaction to the verdict, and we're going to continue on with our discussion after that.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. 4 p.m. Signed, juror 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, come on, come on, boy.
Signed by jury 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
Yeah! Let's go, baby! Yeah! We got justice! This is what we wanted! That's justice we deserve! Yeah!
Jury number 2. Juror number 19. Juror number 27. I need you true. Juror number 44. I need your true and correct verdict. Yeah.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, can see.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace. Amazing grace.
It was nothing but your amazing grace.
Amazing grace.
Yeah.
Amazing
You had
grace.
grace on little on me.
Amazing grace.
And I'm so thankful,
Amazing
Lord,
grace.
for your
Amazing grace. Amazing grace. Amazing grace.
Thank you, Lord.
Amazing grace.
Thank you for washing me clean.
Amazing grace.
Yeah.
Amazing
You
grace.
looked down on little on me.
Amazing grace.
Thank you, Jesus.
Amazing grace.
Amazing grace.
Amazing grace.
Oh, you're amazing grace.
Amazing grace.
Yes, God.
Amazing.
I thank you for your amazing grace.
Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who may have joined us late, we are discussing the verdict, the Derek Chauvin verdict, and what that means for us as a people, and what it could mean for us going forward. So I want to welcome my panelists back, and we are, I mean, this is intense, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I am being, I'm feeling enriched just hearing the answers, and I'm feeling this sense of community that the pastor's been stressing, just talking to you guys about it. And I definitely feel that our viewers are feeling the same way. I'm actually getting people sending me messages on my phone about this conversation and how they're feeling about it. So thank you so much for joining me today, and for sharing your thoughts and your feelings, and being so vulnerable and so real. So, you know, we as Black people, we are very forgiving. I was watching, there was someone that sent me this, it was a video of this young woman. She was standing in front of this building, and she was just full of anger and just talking really passionately about the verdict, and about just everything that's been going on, all of these different shootings and interactions with the police, and just how you know, how it was making her feel. And at the end of her rant, or just her you know, expressing her anger and her challenges with everything that was going on, she said, they're lucky, meaning the dominant culture, they're lucky that all we're looking for is equity and not revenge. They're lucky that all we're looking for is equity and not revenge, right? And this, you know, Claudette has alluded to, and Nate as well, the transatlantic slave trade and all that was that we'd been through during that time. And a lot of what framed the way they treated us then was this fear that they're treating us horribly, and they have to clamp down on us even harder, because if these people ever get any power and seek revenge on us, mercy, right? Because we treated them so badly, right? You know, so a lot of times, you know, when we think even about the formation of the police, a lot of it was really to police Black people, you know, and to make sure that they didn't escape or run away or plan insurrection or those kinds of things. But we've always been very forgiving. At one point in time, well, I wanted to refer to the Botham Jean case, where his brother, this was a Black man who was shot by a white female officer. She went into an apartment and thought that it was her apartment, but it was actually his. And she made the mistake of going into the wrong apartment and shot him to death. And, you know, during the trial for what she had done to him, his brother, his younger brother, actually said, can I come give you a hug? I forgive you. This is what we tend to do as Black people. And the pastor was talking about accountability, and we just heard the song Amazing Grace. Can accountability and grace go together? Can you have one without the other? Does the officer deserve grace? What would that look like? I see Claudette smiling. I'm gonna come to you, Claudette. And you can. I'm gonna say that the three questions there, and you can choose to answer one or all. Have accountability or grace, one without the other. Does the officer deserve grace? And what would that look like?
I want to address what you mentioned about was Botham John's family. I want to say that how wonderful God is that he would work in that young man in a way where he could facilitate healing in that place where that young man could feel that way. So I first, I feel exactly what you're, I was like, I don't know if I could do that. But it shows, I wonder if it shows, a place of where he is healing, or where he is, which is wonderful.
Yes.
I think for, the accountability and grace question, for me, accountability for the oppressor provides grace for the oppressed. Like, I don't think they're not, I think you can't have them separate. I would like to think that, like, I have faith because I know there is an omnipotent protector. So if I don't have an understanding that there is someone that's going to protect us, or that there's some justice that will, keep us safe, then how it's hard to really reconcile with that. So I don't know. Those are I want to be quick and give everyone a chance to chime in. But those are my sort of visceral thoughts, like, around accountability. Absolutely, there needs to be accountability for some. If some never have accountability, then there will never be grace for others.
It's a difficult thing to grapple with, right?
Yeah,
it's really difficult. And I'm coming to Sheldon, man. I see you smiling now, that's the tough one, man. If you smile, I'm gonna come to you. So you might as well keep the screw face on. I'm coming to you after. So Sheldon, what are your thoughts on this idea of grace? And this is, again, this seems to be what we do repeatedly, right? People mess up and do these things to us, and we welcome them back, right? I remember the actor who played Kramer on Seinfeld. He went on this rant, and he said all the he was in a comedy club, and he was doing a comedy sketch, and he said the N-word a few times and said different things about lynching Black people and all kinds of stuff. And then he sought out Farrakhan and all the Black leaders and said, I'm sorry. And we said, okay, right? And we welcome. What are your thoughts, Sheldon, man? Accountability and grace.
Yeah, it's a touchy issue, right? And we're on WestLINK, and we're it's a Christian broadcast, and there's a way we're supposed to think, right? First of all, I will say, you use the word deserve, right? And right off the bat, none of us deserve grace.
Wow.
Right? The Bible says that we're all sinners saved by grace. The wages of sin is death. If we're talking about accountability, that's the deal. We're all sinners, and so the accountability is that you die, right? And then the gift of God is eternal life, right?
Yes,
and so Chauvin doesn't deserve grace, and neither do I as a sinner, right? Having said that, there is no denying, based on my understanding of the scripture, that if Chauvin was to recant or to apologize or seek forgiveness, that the Lord would give it to him. I think that's pretty biblical. I hate to be the person to rain on everybody's parade with regards to that, but that seems my understanding. We have a pastor on the line. You can set me straight if I'm incorrect. But I think that's sort of the deal, that if he were to confess his sins, that he would be forgiven. So what does that mean, right? In the grand scheme of things, I think what that means is that, thankfully, from our perspective, and it seems like the most people on this panel perspective, accountability was served in this situation, in the sense that he was held accountable for his actions on that day. grace that is between him and his God, right? As for us, in terms of extending that, you're right, our community is very forgiving. And what I will say to that is this. Recently, that has sort of been elevated or looked upon as a weakness. And I will push back and say that I don't agree with that. I think that if our community, if the Black community is looked upon as the community of caring, of empathizing, of humanizing another person, then I'm okay with that. And I'm welcome to have people push back and, oh, we always do it, and it means that we're never going to get our accountability. Again, I'm okay with being on that side of the moral compass, because ultimately it's in line with my Christian beliefs, as well as just remember, I brought up the whole human aspect of it, right? And so when you look at the situation, you have to understand, and I know this just from experience in criminal law, in that you're in this situation and everybody in this matter is a human being, right? And had Derek Chauvin looked at George Floyd as a human being, we wouldn't be here, right? And so I'm not trying to go down the path of dehumanizing people. I'm trying to go down the path of, listen, we all need to look at each person as a human being, so that there's no day where Sheldon James could ever have his knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Wow. Okay. I feel like Sheldon's trying to put Pastor Smith out of business. That was very biblically sound and very, and I'm coming to you, Pastor, but I want to go to Nate, man. And I want to ask, what are your thoughts on this, man? I mean, I've heard people say, in situations like these, I want to ask Jesus to give me 2 minutes to deal with the situation the way I want to deal with it, and then I'll come back, right? And be graceful. What are your thoughts, Nate, with regards to grace and accountability?
Again, grace, especially in this case, is not mine to give. So yeah, I don't really have too much thoughts on it. That's between him and God. Accountability, we have a bit more of a hand in that, not directly, but yeah, lawfully, he killed a man. He should go to jail or whatever it is. Our justice system says that should be done to him, because we have chosen to abide by said justice system, right? I am not of the belief that I should be hugging any murderer of my family. That's just not me. I'm not there. That is between them and God again. So yeah, if I'm so always ready to hug the person who consistently stabs me in the back, then when do I deserve to have my back cut open and die, right? Again, I do agree. Grace is we're not deserving of it. If no sin is worse than the other, cool, we're not deserving of it. You get what I'm saying? So I have that total understanding. But my humanity also says that in order for me to progress, I can be very loving and very humanizing, but I also need to be very stern and very purposeful and intentional with how I allow myself to be treated. So, yeah.
Now, Pastor Smith, and Nate said a lot there, man. Pastor Smith, I want to ask you, does grace, for someone who's grappling with this, how does someone not being held accountable impact grace? So let's say Chauvin we didn't get this verdict and we didn't get this outcome. How do we grapple with grace then?
Ooh. I think Nathaniel said it. I mean, so much wisdom was said beyond what I can say, but I'll just add to this. I mean, grace isn't ours to give. Again, forgiveness is not human. Forgiveness is an ability that's given to us when we understand the gift that God has given us. I think where we struggle as a community isn't so much on forgiveness, it's forgetting.
Yes, sir.
I think it's the fact that we forget. We forgive, but we forget.
And, you know, I can't help but go back to a Netflix special that I won't say everybody should watch, but Dave Chappelle went ahead and did this whole piece on equanimity. But at the beginning of the sketch, he talked about the fact that, let's see if I can remember, Carolyn Dunham, I think I said her name right. Carolyn Dunham lied, and it was on her deathbed that she finally confessed to what really happened with Emmett Till. And Dave Chappelle goes on to say maybe her lie was the lie that actually saved the world. Through what happened in the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement came out of that lie. You know, it was because that Emmett Till thing that was a catalyst for a lot of our movement. That would then allow us some of the freedoms, not all, we don't have all of them yet, but some of the freedoms that we appreciate today. I'm saying that to say we can't forget. We can't forget, but it's God that gives us the power to forgive. Forgiveness helps us to move forward, but grace is a gift that's given by God. And we have to understand that true forgiveness is really when we understand what God has given us, and we look at God's forgiveness to us, it gives us the understanding of how we can then begin to make space to forgive. But it's really God who works in us. You know, somebody put up a text there and said, "My grace is sufficient and made perfect in weakness." That text came up earlier, but again, it's on our surrendering to God's forgiveness for us that we're given the capacity to be like Christ in forgiving. But we can't forget, and this thing of grace is a gift that we receive, and if we appreciate the gift, then we ought to let everybody, again, walking humbly with God. That text that I said earlier literally means that we realize that we all must be appreciative of the gift.
Yes.
But the space of forgiveness is what helps us to grow and move forward. The space to be able to become more than we are and help to change society to become more than even we are.
Yes.
Society can't be like Black people. They got to be better. Right? We can't be like any person, so we got to be like Christ. So it's Christ who works in us to will and then to do his good pleasure.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor. We are coming to a close here. We're winding down, but this could go on all day. It really could. But I wanna bring it even closer to us now. It is said, or it has been said, that when America sneezes, Canada catches a cold. So whatever happens there definitely impacts us here, right? So what about Canada? Does this affect the climate on race and the misuse of power in this country? It was interesting that we were talking about how we felt on the day that this particular verdict happened. I take it back a little, and I want to talk about the Devontae Miller case. I don't know if you all are familiar with Devontae Miller, and he was the young man that was beaten within an inch of his life, really, by an off-duty officer. And his brother in Pickering, I believe, was it Pickering? This is somewhere in the east, Pickering, Ajax, somewhere in the east. And the day that verdict came out, my sister said to me that she was having difficulty working that day because it wasn't the verdict that she anticipated. And within the climate of all that was going on with George Floyd, that verdict still came out that way. So can we talk a little bit about what this George Floyd, the Derek Chauvin verdict means for us here within the Canadian context? And Claudette, I'm going to come to you on that one. Again, you are very much a community activist, and you're in there with parents and students. And if you want to even bring, an educator perspective to it, or a parental, totally up to you. But what does this mean for Canada?
Yeah, I thank you for bringing that up. I think that Canada likes to negate its, the power dynamics that exist here. And I will say that I remember the Devontae Miller verdict. It was the last day of school. I do remember that. And I also remember trying to organize a call with our youth, because on these verdict days, I think, we as adults, we we have spaces to talk, and we wanted to, open up a space for the young people to have an opportunity to discuss what was to come. But the Devontae Miller case, I'm thinking also of DeAndre Campbell, days after George Floyd, he was shot at his home in Brampton.
Yes.
And right here. So we have many cases similar to what happens across the border. And so the same, blue wall, all of those things are happening right here in our midst. And it's really important that we have conversations with our young people about these nuances, so that it doesn't just become something that's across the border, and that they understand those same dynamics. To your question around, I think the latter part of your question was around, how do we deal with this either through community or as parents? My particular challenge is what do I say? I always what do we say to our young people? What lessons, and keeping them safe, right? And doing the code switching, as Nate was talking about. And, like I tell my son, tell them to call your mom. Tell them to put us on FaceTime, or, something like that. And I remember saying that, and then fast forward into Dante, I think it was Dante Wright. I don't want to get his name wrong.
Oh yeah, Dante Wright. Yeah.
Just the other day, where he was on the phone with his mother. Whilst this was happening. I think that we should come together as community and create sort of, rules of engagement to help support our young people understand, what are the steps. I know that many organizations have done that, but I think having those conversations with your young people are really critical, because as much as we are reeling, and small children, because I think we're reserving these conversations for people that we think are of age, but we need to understand that our very young children are watching and have a lot of exposure to these videos through TikTok and all these other things, and we need to have those conversations with them as well.
Wow. Yes, indeed. And even with regards to Regis Paquette and all of the mystery that was, sort of still enshrouds that interaction that she had with the police, and Claudette is saying, how do we talk to young people about this? Nathaniel, you're a social worker, you're in there with young people all the time. What are your thoughts? And I saw a comment, Andre Williams had said, in Canada we're a mosaic, and we're supposed to be this salad bowl, and all these things, multiculturalism, and we often sort of hide behind this branding that we have, our national narrative of being, everyone is accepted here and everything works out here. And then, a young person turns on their social media and sees Devontae Miller there with an eye missing after an interaction with the police. But we're taught in school, we are a mosaic, we are multicultural, and we embrace everyone, and we don't see difference, right? How do we grapple with this in the Canadian context? Nate, what are your thoughts?
Grapple? So Canada, interesting that Andre used a K on Canada, but anyways, Canada.
I saw that.
We do this thing where we pretend that racism is not here. We do this thing where it's just filled with a whole heap of microaggressions and backhanded comments. So because of that, I don't see much. I see us trying to separate ourselves from the States, not as Black folk, because we know what it is.
Yes.
But our higher ups,
yeah,
they try to put some separation there and say, oh, we're not like them, so then nothing ever gets discussed. I mean, like even the most publicized race relations that Canada has, period, which is with the Indigenous folk.
Gotta talk about it.
It's a joke thing. Like it's a joke. Oh, we're sorry. I want to apologize, but only, you know, I'm only gonna mute it when I say my apology. Like no one's gonna hear about it. We're not gonna publicize it. No, we can't have any onus towards our racism. So when I understand that, I don't necessarily see much things changing. However, with that understanding, I know that the police force here does have a lot more people who understand that they're putting on a uniform. They understand that, you know, I have, you know, family that is in the police force. You know, a couple of them even messaged me through this, just, you know, to kind of give me a gentle reminder that, yo, trust me, I understand that I'm putting on a uniform and going to work. I understand that I still see, I can still empathize with my brothers because before I was a police officer, I was also getting pulled over. I was also getting slammed up and asked questions. And, you know, so it's weird because with having that conversation with our parents about what we should say and what is safe, and how we should have certain demeanors, I've lived both in the hood and in the suburbs. I've lived both in the city and in the country. There's a very different discussion that my white friend parents are having with their child than I was having. So no matter what, they are still allowed to express their emotions, no matter what. Whereas we have to suppress everything, button up, and have the discussion. So I can't say that that case will directly have an effect with us. Indirectly, I can say because they are trying to separate, more of the pseudo actions will be taken to try and ensure that we are not like them.
Okay. Wow, man. So we're winding down here, and I'm just gonna throw this last question out, and I'm gonna have Sheldon and Pastor Smith give their thoughts on it, and we're gonna wrap things up. So since the George Floyd murder, there have been several instances of police violence against Black people. Does this verdict bring about actual change? What else needs to happen in conjunction with the verdict to bring about real change? What are your thoughts on that? I'm coming to you, Sheldon, and then Pastor Smith.
Yeah. Has there been change? That's $1 million question, right? I don't think anybody thought, or I think you would have been a little bit naive to think that one verdict would switch off the flow of racism or police brutality as it exists in the world. Having said that, I am optimistic, maybe cautiously optimistic, right? That we're trending in the right direction, right? I mentioned at the beginning that certain things in the way that the George Floyd case was handled provides a blueprint or a playbook. If anybody else wants to do, is interested in doing it in the correct way in the future, it's all laid out before you, right? From transparency to removing they had a local prosecutor who was originally on the George Floyd or the Derek Chauvin case. I laugh when people say, well, this was so obvious and so slam dunk, that's why he got the verdict. We've had HD camera footage of people getting shot in the back, multiple angles, Facebook live streams.
Yes.
Like, please, do not forget that part, right? Yes, this was different in the sense that in the 9 minutes and 29 seconds, I'll say that much. But let's not pretend like we haven't had HD camera footage in past ones, right? So it wasn't just the footage, right? It was also the fact that, you had it at the local level with the local prosecutors who were bumbling the case, and then they removed it and got a third party detached away from the community where there weren't the pressures of the community, right? To do bad things. And then that's what propelled it to where you get a verdict, right? And so another person alluded, I can't remember who it was on the panel, that there's two sides of it. There's the prosecution and there's the jury, right? That's how you get a verdict that either for or against whatever side of the fence that you're on, right? And so back in Rodney King's day in the 90s, or we mentioned it before in Emmett Till's day, right? They had a jury there of their peers, and they went through the process, and they came out. Thank you, Nat. I'm glad you put the air quotes because I didn't. Right? A jury of their peers, in quotation marks, and they came to a completely different verdict. Right?
Yes.
And so, if you ask me what has changed, well, clearly things have changed since I think it was 1950s when the Emmett Till happened to the 1990s where the Rodney King verdict came down till now. Right? And so, if you're asking technically, literally, have things changed? Obviously. The question is, have they changed enough? We're in 2021. Has it moved the needle enough that we're not talking about the same things you mentioned, even in the community, people speaking out and businesses are coming out and, we stand with the Black community and all of these things. Lest we forget, 6 years ago, they were calling Black Lives Matter a terrorist group. 2016, they were telling Colin Kaepernick to go back to Africa, right?
Yeah.
This happened just the other day, right? And so I think we've had a quantum leap in the last 4 or 5, 6 years, as opposed to the last 40, right? So in conclusion, there's been changes. There need to be many more. And I believe it starts with legislation, changing the narrative out there. The old playbook that Derek Chauvin's defense team tried to use of an angry Black man who was drugged up, right? It didn't work. Clearly, it was using, again, the old way we deal with these things. And I don't blame them because that's what has worked, right? He used the playbook that everybody else used to get a favorable verdict for his client. But
that's what they did with Trayvon, right? They put Trayvon on trial.
With the hoodie and then all of these things, right? They put him on trial. That's what used to work. And so I'm hoping what the George Floyd matter shows us is that no longer works. You're gonna have to come correct. You're gonna have to come with things called evidence and and use the law and things of that nature. These novel approaches to the issue, right? I hope that it has brought us on even playing field. And one thing, sorry, I know I'm going on, but another thing that the George Floyd, Derek Chauvin matter brought up was, you see what the Black community has been complaining about in terms of the discrepancy in resources. So you see, when the prosecutor, or in Canada it would be called the Crown, they have unlimited resources, right? No one can match their resources, right? This is the government, right? And so they can bring in, I think they flew in the guy from Scotland who had his long resume, the best, authority, right? And then the defense was bringing in, some guy from down the street. But that's what Black people have been complaining about in the judicial system, is that they're not adequately represented, right? They can't afford to mount a defense, right? So it was an interesting dynamic here where all of a sudden now the government is on our side. It was a strange, and you saw how it played out. It was stark and clear. I don't think it was just because it was such a bad case for the defense. I think a lot of other things played into that.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. And thank you for giving us some legal perspectives there, Sheldon. And Pastor, I'm going to sort of let you have the last word here. As we've gone over time, and I'm apologizing to everyone, but I couldn't cut this. What else needs to happen in conjunction with this verdict? What are your thoughts to bring about real change? Real change. We talked about accountability and all these things. What needs to happen in conjunction with the verdict to bring about some real tangible change?
Sheldon pretty much summed it up, and I won't go long. I'll just add to it to say, we can't take weak answers anymore. I think, when people see $10,000 being handed to Black people, everybody signs up, takes a little cut, runs back, and then we forget. I think we need to demand real changes, and we need to wait till the real changes happen before we accept things like money just being handed out. We need to see reform. We need to see things happen. We need to also stand with our brethren. I think somebody put something out there about Asians play as well. We need to stand with our brethren. Nathaniel spoke to it as well. I mean, the indigenous play has been happening for generations, and indigenous actually stand with Black folk. Black folk don't stand with indigenous. There was a comment that was also made, I believe, from my sis my sis, praise and worship leader extraordinaire. She spoke about crabs in a barrel, right? So we've got to join together. Yeah, that was from
Renell.
Renell Patrick. That's right. Crabs in a barrel, and I think at the same time we're taking whatever little crumbs come out and saying, well, that's a little bit better than we've ever had, let's just take it and run. But I think we need to ask for systems to be changed and wait till they're done and ask for them to be done and not accept handouts until those changes come forth. And we need to continue to challenge the system together. I think united we can demand greater change, but I think divided we're going to fall. I think we need to drop some of the things that are internal within our Black community that would help us to see greater changes happen. We're seeing way too many Black people fighting with each other about small things when we should be finding ways to challenge the system together. And I'm kind of tired of seeing that. I love the discussion. We appreciate this space. This tells us that we need to continue to have more dialogues like this and push the envelope. It's been small changes, but we need to work tirelessly to see greater changes happen.
Awesome. And you know me, I'm going to say that I really believe that education is key. I really feel as though, we have kids' minds for 6 hours a day in classrooms. And these are, the schools are a microcosm of society, right? And if we can actually start affecting change with kids from ages 4 all the way through, I think we would definitely start to see some change in society as well. I do believe that we have some mental health resources that are available. We know that this conversation was very emotionally charged. So for those of you who may have been triggered by some of the things that we discussed, there are some mental health resources available that you can avail yourselves of if you do feel the need for some support. I want to say thank you, a huge thank you to all of my panelists, Sheldon James, Claudette Rutherford, Nathaniel Frey Smith, and Pastor Dexter Smith. I want to thank you all so much. I couldn't have asked for more out of a discussion and a dialogue concerning this particular issue. And I know for a fact that those listening were very much enriched and empowered by this discussion that we had. So thank you all so much. And I personally feel a part 2 because there's so much that we didn't unpack that we could, but and I know that one of our producers alluded to that last night, that there might be a need for a part 2, and we'll talk about that. But thank you so much, and thank you all for tuning in and listening and being a part of this discussion. I want to again ask you please to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, WestLINK and Toronto West Seventh-day Adventist Church, and thank you again for joining in. We will leave you with this charge. We want you to continue to spread awareness. As was alluded to by our panel, a lot of people felt as though, well, this case was a slam dunk again, because of the video. And no, it's not a slam dunk, because there's a lot of people out there who still hold very narrow-minded perspectives and attitudes with regard to systemic racism, and in particular anti-Black racism. So we have a lot of work to do. Don't think that this particular verdict was the pinnacle and that we have overcome and that we've reached. We made that mistake when we thought that we were in a post-racial society when President Obama was elected, and we found out that that was not the case, and we still have a lot of work to do. So I implore you to continue to work towards equity and towards understanding systemic racism and the issues that are underlying behind what we see bubbling at the surface, and to continue to work hard and to trust in God as we go forward. I would like to invite you to bow your heads with me as I just offer a quick word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for your goodness, for your mercy, and for your grace. Thank you for giving us this space and this opportunity to discuss all that we have talked about. We want to thank you for being a God of order and of law and of justice and of more than everything, grace and mercy. Please continue to watch over us as we go through this untried week and continue to bless and protect us all, we pray and ask. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for your grace, your amazing grace. Thank you for the way that you forgive me every day. Thank you for your grace, your amazing grace. Yeah, great is your mercy. Thank you for your grace. How could I breathe without it? How could I move without it? I couldn't live without it. Your grace, not one single word without it. How could I speak without it? I wouldn't want to sing without it. Your grace, thank you for your grace, your amazing grace. Thank you for the way that you forgive me every day. Thank you for your grace, your amazing grace. Yeah. Great is your mercy. Thank you for your grace. Imagine a world without it. There'd be no hope without it. No chance for peace without it. Thank you for your grace. Your amazing grace. Thank you for the way that you forgive me every day. You forgive me anyway. And I'm so grateful today. Yeah. I said I'm so grateful today. So my hands are lifted in your presence, Lord. Thanking you for your grace.
Hey, brethren, one thing that I love about our youth at Toronto West is their willingness to do outreach, to give, to attach themselves to a worthy cause. And I believe it has something to do with the Holy Spirit, one, and the DNA of our church. Well, the AY department, as well as the Pathfind department, are teaming up with ADRA and AID for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are collecting money, food, clothing, donations for those unfortunate souls who have been displaced by this volcano. Now, we have a goal of collecting $2,000 in Toronto West, and those viewing out there, I believe this is achievable. Even within the next couple of hours, I think that we can do it. I believe in y'all. So to give, you can use the online giving option, or you can e-transfer the funds to Toronto West Treasurer at adventistontario.org. When giving, now be sure to indicate that it's going to AY for St. Vincent. The items that we are collecting are things such as batteries, flashlights, first aid kits, candles, matches, soap, disposable plates, cups, cutlery, napkins, sanitary napkins, children's clothing, and make sure the children's clothing are not winter gear, but summer clothing. And also casual adult clothing like jeans, t-shirts, shorts, items for school for the kids, like pencils, papers, markers, crayons, notebooks. Also food items, like canned foods, like tuna, sardine, corned beef, sugar, flour, all the non-perishable items that can help. Now this is very important. Dates to drop off these items. Every Saturday, starting today, May 15th to June 5th. And it is between the hours of 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And of course, you know the location. It is 1621 Albion Road, Etobicoke. And folks, listen, it is a rewarding thing to give. Giving is actually a blessing. In Genesis 12:2, God said to Abraham, look, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. That's why he blesses us, so that we can bless others. Amen. I read somewhere that it is better to give than receive. So I hope that you make a trip down here, 1621 Albion Road, and give. All right, God bless you and have a wonderful Saturday.